Hey, Drew and Corey, let's do a San Antonio Tech Dad podcast.
Indeed.
Is it already that time? Seems like
It
we just did
is.
one of those.
We
It's
just did one like 4 months ago.
sure.
Like
We're due.
yesterday.
We're due. How you guys doing?
Very well.
Yes. I'm dry. I have gas. I'm great.
Yes.
That's really all that a Texan can ask for this week. You've also got a lazy dog on the couch behind
I
you.
do. That's Daisy Ray. That's my German Shepherd. Notice she's the fiercest dog in my house. Clearly. So she's joining us for the podcast today.
Quite vicious. Look at her.
Majestic. She's just majestic. It's really sad.
She is. Well, hey, it's great to get the whole crew back together for we have families and events and schedules, but it's great to get everybody back together and chat.
Yeah. Summer's in school starting and all the things.
Ugh.
All of the things. So
I think it's been about one summer since we spoke, right?
It sounds about right. It sounds that's the appropriate amount of time there. One of the things that was going on this week, of course, was the big hurricane Harvey that hit the Gulf Coast in Texas, Port Aransas, Rockport. A lot of aftermath, and then the hurricane kind of settled over Houston for quite a while. Here in San Antonio, we were pretty worried about that. San Antonio is pretty prone to flooding, but fortunately we escaped it. But we spent a lot of time preparing for that as San Antonians, and I kind of wanted to open up the discussion today with that. So I mean, we've all got kids, we've got families. What were some of the preparations that you all did to get ready for the possibility of being flooded in without power?
So growing up in the Houston area, we'd been through some storms before, some of which we bailed out of town for, and others we weathered. And so my biggest concern was really that we were going to lose power. It wasn't so much the flooding, because I didn't know really how much rain we were going to get. That's kind of up in the air, and I knew we were going to get some wind. And so a little bit of rain and a lot of wind, and you're pretty likely to lose power for at least a period of time, but we didn't really know how much we were going to get hit. So a lot of my preparations were around making sure like we had the things that we needed charged, and we had surge protectors on the right things, and the basic food and water necessities of life. But we really planned on hunkering down and spending the weekend inside. And the thing that I should have done a better job planning is stir crazy prep for the kids. I think that was my biggest lesson learned. I did not solve for stir crazy children.
Yes. Neither did I. I pretty much did the same thing you did. So I'm from Las Vegas. So,
very few hurricanes in Las Vegas.
Not as many hurricanes as you would think, really. I actually lived in Houston for quite a few years, and I had a house that actually, like, the entire bottom floor was flooded out because of rain. No hurricane, but just flooding and whatever. So this came along, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go get some stuff for the house in case power goes out. That was my big concern. If the electronics didn't work, okay. I mean, I'll make do. The worst case was, what happens when the internet goes out? It's like, well, I got board games, so we're fine. Kids can draw. It'll be all right. Went and bought a little bit of water because, water just in case. My big fear was, like, if something happened, the water supply got corrupted. I just want to make sure that I had stuff on hand for a couple days. Which, by the way, pro tip, in a hurricane, when everybody's scrambling for the bottled water, go to the baby section. Within the baby section are all of these distilled and regular waters that are normal, just gallons and gallons and gallons of water for purified, for baby formula, basically. Yeah. Untouched. I went to 2 stores, nothing. Nobody touched anything. And I'm going, but the water section completely sold out. I was like, guys, there's over here too. So I ended up walking away with all these gallons of water, and I was like, all right, pro tip. But yeah, I made it. I was like, all right, guys, we're going to stay indoors. We're going to make it a party. We're going to get some SpaghettiOs, some beefaroni, some raviolis. Like, we're going to get some just food that we can quickly heat up. And, if the microwave goes out, I got like a kerosene camp stove I can use. I was like, we're good. I bought I didn't buy too much, like, disposable food. I didn't buy too much like meat, steaks or anything like that because I was like, I really don't want to chance it. So just lots of canned food and fun stuff to eat around the house, and it was good. We weathered the storm. I agree with you. The stir crazy thing was insane. Just them being indoors the entire time, and what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, let's go play something. Let's build a fort. Let's do this. Let's do that. But we didn't lose power. We didn't have any issues. It was just raining and not good to go outside. So that they just climbing the walls. So
yeah, we're definitely incredibly fortunate to have only had kids climbing walls instead of walls tumbling down and the stuff. That was one of the other things that my wife and I dealt with is, I think San Antonians spend at least a weekend a year in the Rockport or Port A or Corpus area. I mean, when we go to the beach, that's the beach we go to because it's striking distance. And then I grew up in Houston, so like all of these places are places where I have vested interest. And so my wife and I would get caught up in like trying to track down the best live stream of some news broadcast that told us what was going on. Because, I mean, that was the other thing, having a battery. Your cell phone hopefully would still work if the internet went out. But we never lost power for a moment at our place. And we were just in a constant battle with the kids. We're not watching another show. We need to see what's going on. And then maybe we watched what was going on a little too long, and the kids were like, we want to watch a show. And so then there was some back and forth there, trying to sort all that out. But yeah, we stockpiled ice. I mean, ice trays full every time anything was ready. I'd throw it in a bag and reload the ice trays. So we had, some of that cold prep if the refrigerator were to be
go out
unfunctional, for a period of time.
Right.
So shopping was a nightmare the couple days early on, and now I guess gas shopping is a nightmare because people are filling 5-gallon buckets thinking that's a good idea. Don't go fill 5-gallon buckets and put them in your garage.
Just don't fill a 5-gallon bucket. Fill a 5-gallon
gas can,
approved gas can. Gas. And fill up your lawnmower with it, and then have a little left over just in case there's a temporary slowdown in the delivery of gas and really social media hysteria.
So I didn't understand that part. Is that everybody was hoarding up on gas?
It wasn't they were hoarding. It was that they were filling up more frequently than usual.
Right.
They said that 2.5 times as frequently as usual, which means that unless they were actually driving 2.5 times as much, they were, instead of letting your tank get down to half or a quarter full, right, they would wait until it was like 3/4 full.
And so
they'd fill up early. And so, when I finally got gas, which I didn't have anywhere to go this weekend, so I stayed and didn't move this weekend, and I didn't need it, which is great. But when I finally went to get gas, I put in my card and timed it. So by the time I got out of the car till the time I started pumping that first gallon of gas, it was like 3.5 minutes, because of the strain on the system for verifying the credit card and then the pump itself moved really, really slowly. So I needed probably 14 or 15 gallons, I think, by the time everything was said and done. So that took me well more than 10 minutes to get that done. And so when you have people filling up 2.5 times as frequently just to get to that first gallon, if you have 100 people coming into that gas station, that is a significant amount of time that they're going to need to actually get that done.
Yeah, fuel companies are big logistics companies, and they know about what to expect on demand and all that stuff. And when there's a sudden and unreasonable spike, responding quickly is difficult, especially when there are complications to your delivery cycles and your production environment and all that other stuff. So your focus is probably on the safety of a refinery in Houston, and you're still able to deliver gas at a regular cadence and whatever. But then when that cadence gets disrupted out of nowhere from hysteria, then you've got to make
accommodations.
sudden accommodation. So there's still gas. It's just
and last weekend was Labor
scary.
Day, so everybody's trying to fill up for the holiday weekend, right?
Yeah,
And
already a big driving
it
holiday.
was gas prices are normally going to start to go up around that time anyway. You throw in a little bit of the word shortage was kind of thrown around. The new San Antonio mayor Ron Nuremberg got in a little bit of flack on social media for saying it wasn't a shortage, because it wasn't. But when you are the one that is trying to get gas and you have to wait in line for 2 hours to get gas, it feels like a shortage. It was a micro shortage, not a macro shortage.
I felt delay was the better term. It was a gas delay. Like gas
That's
stations
good.
were not getting it as quickly as possible. Because what Gas Buddy that morning, I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday morning, said there were 7 gas stations in the San Antonio metropolitan area that did not have gas. By that afternoon, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 45 gas stations were completely
And so
out.
I think what happened was that people started to see that and said, "Whoa, hang on! All these gas stations are without gas. I've got this holiday weekend coming up. I have to fill up right now." And so people that had half a tank went in, and again, they just started to stack up and stack up and stack up.
Right.
Well,
So
my commute into work on Friday morning had a definite uptick in cars on the side of the road, and my only assumption is because everyone had to rush out and top up their tank and chew up fuel supply. People who actually needed it couldn't get
couldn't
gas
get
in
it.
their tank and got stranded.
Yeah.
So on that Friday, I got a text message from my boss, and he said, "I guess there's a gas shortage. So why doesn't everybody work from home today?" And I was like, "Done. Yes, shortage. It's terrible. I feel for everybody. I'm working from home today."
Well, that's the great thing, is that all three of us are very fortunate to be information workers, and we have jobs that oftentimes allow us the luxury of being able to work from home. I think a lot of our economy is shifting to that, so it's very feasible for that to happen. I know that for those that don't have that luxury, San Antonio's Via bus system opened up at least yesterday with free rides, just to help out anybody that needed that transportation who didn't have gas.
I knew somebody that was trying to get to work and was out of gas, and in order for her to get to work, she called an Uber.
Yeah, which and Uber doesn't have a store of gas that they've got some cash out there that is out there for everybody. And so what's Uber going to do? All those individual drivers are sitting in line. I wonder how many of the delivery drivers, Uber drivers, favor drivers, shipped grocery delivery drivers, all of those people are sitting out there in line. Those are the ones that probably need it the most, the ones that need their vehicle and the ability to drive around for their employment. Those are probably the ones that needed it the most. And I doubt that those were the people that were filling up the most.
Right.
Well, there are definitely people who are most impacted on their bottom lines when the gas prices are artificially inflated because of an issue like this.
Yeah. So let's talk about something a little bit more exciting than a good old fashioned gas shortage. Let's
another hurricane.
There's another one coming, and then another one after that, and so everybody stay safe.
Supply. Let's talk about something other than horrific natural occurrences. Let's talk about awesome natural occurrences.
Yes, let's do that. Let's talk about the Great American Solar Eclipse, as everybody was styling it. This, I guess about 2 weeks ago now, on the 21st of August, we had a total solar eclipse that was visible in the continental United States for the first time in, I think, like 40 years, almost 40 years. And so I remember growing up in grade school, there was one that was a partial eclipse, and I made a little pinhole viewer for it in school and was able to see it. And it was, it was pretty neat to see the sun kind of get partially eclipsed by the moon. But this is the first time that the path of totality, where you could see a total solar eclipse, that was the first time that it went through the mainland United States in quite a while. And it just so happened that the path of totality went about 2 miles away from my grandmother's house up in Missouri. And so I was able to head up there. I normally head up in August anyway with my family. And so I took my 2 sons up to visit the family, and we were able to see a total solar eclipse, which
Nice.
was absolutely stunning. I know that a lot of people have said that it's it's gorgeous, it's breathtaking. All of those cliches are there. It is a absolutely once in a lifetime event, and I strongly encourage anybody to travel to see one. In 7 years, actually, in April of 2024, there's going to be one that goes right here through Texas. So
yeah, and actually,
Hill Country, Texas. Yeah,
San Antonio's right in the path, so like we're definitely going to get a full eclipse. So opportunity.
Yeah. The weird thing is,
check out the NASA map, because the NASA map shows exactly where totality is going to be. I looked at it a couple days ago, and my house is 5 blocks from the edge of totality.
Get in there. Yeah, get in there.
So it's basically the north.
We'd be good to go.
No, right? I'm in totality.
Oh, you are?
I'm 5 blocks away from not being in
I'm
totality.
coming over. I'm coming
yeah, so eclipse party at Drew's house. That's happening.
And so that's the thing is,
actually, what's happening? Actually, what's happening?
You're going up to
my house is going to be Airbnb'd, and I'm going to make bank.
Yeah,
and then I'm going somewhere else, and I'll still see it, and it'll be fine.
Yep, that's a valid point, sir.
It absolutely is. There are a lot of people that were getting out of town in Kansas City, Nashville, Salem, Oregon, all the way across the states, wherever it was visible. For me, it was just really neat to be able to get together with my family. It was, my grandma's 93, and her husband, my grandfather, passed away this February, and the 22nd is his birthday. So it was really nice to be able to be there for family for that day. We had probably 20 people that were joining us, friends and family that were there. Just had a big party in the yard, and ate some great food, and got to see family, and got to see what was probably a once in a lifetime event for a lot of people.
Afternoon.
Yeah, it was so weird. I mean, here in San Antonio was about 60%, 60-70%, something like that.
You couldn't really tell standing outside unless you were looking at shadows and stuff like that. You could look up and see it. It was nothing spectacular, neat, but not like awe-inspiring.
It was a totality. It was partial. It was all right.
It's amazing how bright 60% of the sun is, in my opinion.
It is, but it's still enough that you you can still see and everything. But and even in totality, it was still like dusk twilight kind of a thing for about 2.5 minutes. And at that time, you can you're supposed to wear the glasses whenever you look at the partial eclipse. But once it hits totality, you can take your glasses off and just see. And it got noticeably cooler. The birds stopped singing. The it got noticeably darker.
Came out. Owls started hooting.
I feel this is like Alan, you're describing a horror movie right now. You're like, so full totality came, silence became like around everywhere, and nobody could see it. It was dark in the middle of the day.
And it was. And so, it's one of those things where you have to think, what did the first people that experienced one of these things, think when it all of a sudden it just got dark? Because it's not dark enough that you during the partial portion of the eclipse, but once it finally covers it all up, it's dark enough that you really notice it. So it was really neat. We got to see a lot of really cool stuff, and our family got to experience it. So it was good. Got to visit a lot of other cool things up in Kansas City, which, by the way, if anybody ever heads up to Kansas City, head over to the Crown Center area in Kansas City and go to a place called Kaleidoscope. It's run by Hallmark, which is headquartered right there, and it is absolutely free. And it is for kids age 4 to 12, I want to say. And it is a free arts and crafts experience for kids. And so they got to do things like make their own puzzles. They got a little piece of cardboard and drew a picture on it, and then put it through a little hand-cranked puzzle press that turned it into a puzzle. They did some cool blacklight art. And then in the same blacklight art room, they had these neat monitors that used webcams and little fiber optic cables and projectors to project what they were drawing in the air onto the wall. So they would draw
that's cool.
it was really cool. I spent a lot of time doing that. They had in another portion of it, they had projectors on the wall and a camera that would turn whatever you were doing into a kaleidoscope itself. So it was this little projection of the kids dancing on the wall, but it was all quartered and mirrored and kaleidoscope. So
that's awesome.
Really cool. Head up that way if you're ever up in Kansas City. And of course, get some of the best barbecue in the world while you're up there too. So
they know pork in Kansas City. I cannot deny that.
You cannot. You cannot. I actually saw the Royals win, which is something that I haven't done in person in quite a while. So That's always a good.
I have to ask about the Royals story with the dishes that you posted on Twitter and why you're not doing dishes anymore and you're buying paper plates, Daisy paper plates. I need an explanation because it's a very out of context. I read that and I was like, oh no, what happened?
Because the Royals were winning. They were up, I think, 1-0. And I was watching the game and being a responsible adult. So I went into the kitchen and started to do the dishes. And I came out like 5 minutes later and they were down something like 7-1. And they just imploded and it was bad. And so I just decided that it was probably the dishes' fault and that I would be better off if I just never, ever did dishes again.
Clearly. Yeah. And they're just disposable paper.
Science.
Recyclable. That's what it is. You're good.
Yeah.
Science.
You can compost them.
Oh, man.
So anyway, Eclipse is fun. Kansas City's fun, especially with kids. In that same area in Kansas City, there's also the Union Station, which has there's a beautiful train station from that period in time. Kansas City was a major point of commerce, especially with cattle and with grain trading. So a lot of commerce went through that area. A lot of cattle were shipped up on the lines, and then of course the people traveling across the country went through Kansas City quite a bit. So this is beautiful, beautiful train station there, and they actually have Science City inside of that, and also a planetarium. And so we saw a really cool show in the planetarium. There's a series of kids books that we really like as a family called The Magic Treehouse, and it's about these kids, their brother and sister, and they're playing around at grandma and grandpa's house, and one day they find a treehouse that wasn't there before. They climb up into the treehouse. Also sounds like a really scary story.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
But then they go up into the treehouse and they see these books and they're like, oh, this book's about dinosaurs. I wish I could go to the dinosaur time. Woo! And all of a sudden they end up in dinosaur time, right? And so in this one, exactly. And so it's a really great series of books, and the audiobooks are fantastic. They're narrated by the author. And so we've listened to them on car rides, and we've listened to them at bedtime, and the kids are very familiar with them. And we were able to keep that a secret from them, that there was going to be that's what we were going to do while we were at Science City. So we went, and as soon as they heard the narrator, the author's voice, they realized what it was, and they were so excited about it. So, and it was one of those big 360, well, not quite 360 degree, but 360 degree around domed planetarium. So they had really good sound where you would turn your head because you'd hear a sound and you'd see it on the other side of the screen. So really cool experience.
Planetarium here in town's pretty cool. I took a tour there recently.
I haven't been.
I don't even know where it is out here. Where is our planetarium?
It's at SAC. It's on the San campus, right on San Pedro.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's worth going to.
Yeah. Not nearly apparently as cool as Kansas, or having like cool barbecue or anything like that. Jeez.
We were in Missouri.
Oh, even better.
That's about the same.
There's a dub.
Ooh.
There is a difference. They're two different.
It's really what side of the street you're on.
No,
that's
literally,
really what
it's
it
the
is.
side of the street on State Line.
On State Line. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump, right?
That's the road. State Line, and it travels the
odd numbers are on one side of the street in one state. The even numbers, the other side of the street, the other state.
Which is really confusing because back in the day, we used to have these phones that didn't go in your pocket. They were called pay phones, and they would like be on the street. And so if you used a payphone on one side of the street to call the other side of the street, you'd have to like dial long distance to get to the other side of the street. So it was really confusing to a lot of people.
But the barbecue's good
for you. It's better than good.
Oh wow!
Better than good. Next topic.
I like their ribs a lot.
Apparently, pork's really good, so we'll just go from there.
Yeah.
Speaking of things the kids listen to on car rides, you found an app, by the way.
I did.
Called Leela Kids Podcast. Can you explain this to me? Because I have never heard of this.
A podcasting app for kids, and it's a podcast listening app for kids. And the idea is that it aggregates kid-appropriate content from a variety of providers and puts it into a easy-to-use interface that kids can use, right? Because podcasting is not exactly easy to pick up a feed sometimes, right? You kind of need to know where to go or have some good recommendations for you already. So it actually sets it up really well for kids. Let me see if I can figure this out here.
It's interesting that you brought this up because I just went through this with my son with the Kindle, the kid's Kindle.
Yeah.
Is that apparently See, that's a very cool interface.
Let me brighten up the screen. Does that work? That's
no, it looks like fire. It looks like
Right.
looks like an eclipse. No, don't do that.
All right, so there it is. There we can see that one now. So it's just a simple. It's a very simple interface. We have what age are your kids, right? So
Yep.
here we have 3 to 5, 5 to 8, 8 to 12, and then 12 to 15. So you choose the age appropriateness for the kids. Then you go through, and it has a bunch of different categories. So this is the 8 to 15-year-old. So we have stories, bedtime stories, science, music, animals, ocean, space, dinosaurs, and curious. This afternoon, I was playing around with it, and I listened to this Curious, and there's a podcast from Vermont Public Radio called But Why, which is the perfect title for a kids podcast.
Yes.
And this one was about why do bicycles not fall over whenever you're driving them, but if you park them, they fall over, right? And they had a physicist on to explain it, right? And he did a really good job in a way that I think that a kid could.
So explained it with words, no pictures.
Words. No pictures, just words.
This is physics.
Yeah.
Imagine with me, if you will, physics.
That's
so
there we were.
That's a difficult thing to pull off.
It is, and I think he did a pretty good job. And so then they have stories and bedtime stories. That's the thing that I'm really excited about. For car rides, it's really nice to have a story that a kid can listen to. And we've had some very good success with audiobooks. There are a lot of good stuff. Drew, you had a great recommendation, and we picked it up, and the kids loved it. It was
Runaway Ralph.
What's that?
Runaway Ralph.
Oh, Runaway Ralph is good. I actually read that one out loud. I did not get the audiobook, and it was the adventure stories with
My Side of the Mountain and The Hatchet and some of those.
And then it was an older one. It was it had Kidnapped and what was the one? The Jungle Book. The Jungle Book, right? And a couple of those other ones. Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yes. So
Nice.
so good stuff like that. So they've always loved those, but this is nice. They're little short, like snack size stories that they can listen to. So, I'm big on using imagination, and that's one of the things that a good story will do. Even if it's read out loud to you, it'll really help you use your imagination. So it's a way that the kids have tablets. That's kind of the reality that we're in. So instead of having them play games or watch Netflix or whatever, now we can have them listen to podcasts, listen to stories, and listen to things that will help them learn. They can learn about science, space, about why does a bicycle stand up. So a lot of really fun stuff there for them.
Also develop some new interests for them as well. So maybe things that they didn't even think about as well, and go, hey, that's kind of cool. Is there more of that? So I wonder how old you have to be until you start listening to Hello from the Magic Tavern.
I am too young to listen to Hello for the Magic Tavern.
Such a great podcast, though. It's so good.
It is good stuff. It is,
but
it is
children appropriate.
Not children appropriate, but totally adult appropriate. So I just thought it was interesting that you brought this up because, like I was saying, that with the Kindle for Kids, I got it from I got a deal at the time when it came out, and I gave it to my son, and it comes with a case and everything, and he loves it. But for a while, it was only apparently when they ship it to you, it's like the lowest age possible. So like when I got it almost 2 years ago, he had the app and he was playing on it, and now he's like, Dad, I've played these games. These are not fun anymore. I've seen these videos. He's like, I wish I had more. And I was like, I'm going to buy another Kindle. I'm going to get a device. But there's an aggregator so that you can adjust the age on the Kindle, and it will actually release more content based off of the age range. So I kicked it up a little bit, and he has this whole new library of things that he can look at, books that he can read. He's got videos he can watch. Movies become more available to him, like using Netflix and everything. So it was neat to do that because now he's like, it's a brand new Kindle to him. He's like, look at all these new games. This is so great.
That's good.
So I thought I was like, thank you for not making me buy another device. Thank you. So I think this is awesome. I'm definitely going to try and check this out with my kids.
Also, PSA, go to Biblioteca. It's San Antonio's online library. You can also get lots of audiobook content for all ages on their various subscriptions that they have set up on behalf of their users.
Drew loves the Biblioteca.
See?
He's a fan.
Hey, Drew, ¿dónde está la biblioteca?
These are the hard-hitting questions that we ask on SA Tech Dads.
That's all I remember.
It's on the internet. That's funny.
Good stuff. What else do we have to talk about?
So you
Cooking
eat
with
food.
kids.
Cooking with kids. Let's talk about that. I as a person, we've talked about this on the podcast. I love to cook. If you follow me on Instagram, it's pretty much food porn. That's it. I don't post pictures. I post pictures of my kids. I post pictures of my kids cooking. I post videos of my kids cooking. It's food. So we did tacos one night, and one of my highest rated Instagram videos is me making my daughter hand roll tortillas out and do the whole thing and throw them in the pan, and she's running back and forth, and I'm just standing there as a dad like this. So I posted it on Instagram, and people love it. They're like, that's amazing, so good, great, da 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 da. But I love cooking with my kids, and my kids love cooking. My daughter's into trying new foods, and she's now like on a salmon kick. So she always wants to have salmon. She's like, I want to learn how to cook salmon. Show me how to do this. I'll make it. She wants to take the challenge herself, and she wants to try and make dinner for everybody. So I supervise. I stand in the back like this, and I'm like, you need more salt. Salt. I'm like the Gordon Ramsay father. That's what I'm like. No, stop it, no. So, but she enjoys cooking. She really, really does, and it's something great you can do with the kids. Elliot, my son, he loves doing it. He's more of the dish guy. He hasn't reached the food state. He's like, Dad, I'm gonna go wash the dishes, and he just sits there and he hangs out in the water and goes to the bowls, and I'm making soup, and he's making soup and doing everything, and then my daughter is running around making food, and I'm just standing in the kitchen going, I don't have to cook. It's great. So it's one of those things that I think it's hard though to decide like what kind of recipe you're gonna start with the kids, right? Like, you don't want to just heat something off the microwave. You want to give them the opportunity to cook and give them the trust factor of like, hey, let's use a knife carefully. Hey, this pan is hot. Please don't burn yourself and make me a terrible parent. How do you start to edge them into that? Recipes you start with convenience cooking is what we were talking about earlier. So what do you guys think about that?
I love the idea of tacos because tacos are build your own. So you can really make a bunch of different ingredients. And if you want to, you can cook all of them. And if you want to, you can make tacos that don't require any heat. Like you could throw together something that you don't have to cook, you don't have to heat. So you can really start at a very simple process that's not very involved at all, and get the kids involved in the kitchen, finding out where things are, finding out like taking somebody's order, what would you like on your taco, doing some of the building process, putting flavors together. That's something that I think kids do naturally, but if you supervise, they may actually enjoy the thing that they muddle together on their plate. But then you can kind of step the game up and step the intensity up. I mean, chopping an onion, now that I'm an adult and I've done it a bunch of times, is pretty fine. But
Right.
You're going to have both the knife skills required and the ability to put up with your eyes burning from cutting an onion, which is probably more of an advanced level thing to get a kid involved in. So have them cut an avocado. They don't even have to use a knife that's sharp. That's super easy. Like, here's a butter knife. Cube this avocado for me. And let them go to work and figure out the mechanics and figure out how to hold it. And when they put their finger in the wrong place, it's not going to lop the finger off.
It's true.
Because it's avocado.
Yeah.
And that's a great ingredient in every taco I've ever had. So we can...
by itself or on toast or whatever.
Right? Is it avocado? I'll have that, please.
Yes.
Pro tip about the onion. When cutting an onion, don't cut the root off. The very end, don't take that off. It doesn't sweat. If it doesn't sweat, it's not going to make your eyes burn. Pro tip.
Really?
Yep, it won't make it doesn't secrete the stuff that makes your eyes water. So all you do is just chop. You could slice it in half and leave the root and then just chop down normally. And as long as you don't pull that thing off or cut it off, it won't sweat. You'll be good to go.
There's like the little knobby part that has that's the top part, right?
That's the top, but that's the part. That's
the dangly
right.
pointy part. Leave that on. Okay.
No, so just leave that piece on and it should be fine. But that's the pro tip.
The more you know.
But yeah, that's one of the things. Like, but then you also get those great stories. Like, I know that when I was when I was growing up cooking, like my mom would be like, put a piece of bread in your mouth and breathe through the bread, and your eyes won't water when you cut an onion up. And I'm like, really? So I'm that kid out there with a piece of bread in his mouth, breathing through the bread. And I'm like, I have no idea if this works, but my mom said it did. So clearly it works because mom
I'm
said
also
so.
drooling all over this food.
Yeah, and then like
Yeah.
keep eating bread, and I'm like, I think she's just trying to fill me up, is what she's trying to do. It's pre-dinner, is what the plan
You're making
was.
food she likes, and she wants more left over for her.
Exactly.
Well, so then, okay. So on the same vein of things that our parents told us that might or might not be total crap. So my mom and my grandma also both claim that if you have the hiccups, you drink a glass of water upside down, and that will get rid of the hiccups.
Yes. I am a 35-year-old man. I am not going to stand on my head or upside down drink a glass of water. I'll just deal with the hiccups. It's okay. I'll just go through it. The motions, and when it's done, it's done. I'll do that. I'll hold my breath. I'll eat applesauce. I'll do whatever. I'm not drinking. I'm too old for that. I'm not as nimble as I once was to be drinking water. I choke. Alan, I would choke.
Is that our parents trying to screw with us, or is it something that might actually work? Because
that's what it is. Like as a father now, as a father now, I want to make my kids do it. And be like, oh, try and drink it upside down. Let's see if you can do it.
So, we'll see. I like the idea of cutting avocados. That's great. That's something that we can probably work on with the kids around here. That's always trying to find that right thing for them to do, because it's, they're not going to be able to cut the onion. That's a great example, but even if they have the knife skills, the crying is going to be an issue, things like that. So you got to watch out for that. Always on the lookout. Quesadillas are pretty easy to do. Once they figure out don't touch this part of the skillet, the handle is going to be okay, but don't touch the rest of it. And what kid doesn't like quesadillas? So that's always a great option. Tacos, again, another great option for that, for those times.
Man, I've really had a lot of luck with like Saturday or Sunday breakfast, because a lot of breakfast foods are pretty easy to do. You're like at your most patient and sharp when you've got plenty of time. Like there's no like, we've got to get this done so that you can have your food, so that you can take your bath, so that you can brush your teeth, so that I can read you a book, so you can go to bed because you got school tomorrow. There's like all that pressure is off. And so you can do things like, here, crack these eggs and stir them, and then we'll put them in the skillet, and you just keep, as you see them solidify, you move them a little bit. And like those are pretty simple things that a perfect egg is hard, but a decent egg is not.
Right. You can make scrambled eggs. Pancakes aren't too difficult either. It's really just like, it's a pancake. It looks good. Can you get your spatula underneath it and flip?
Yeah, that's basic mechanics. And you get to work with a lot of the chemistry side of things. Like, look, we're adding these two things. They're going to react in this way so that we'll have this. So one of the cool things that I did with my son over the summer is we made a crepe mix instead of regular. We usually do a pretty thick pancake. I've got a recipe of really fluffy pancakes that he and I like to do together. But I decided I was going to find a crepe mix and then get a little like ketchup squeeze bottle, and we would make designs with the mix. So it was really thin, and then we just drew all over the skillet with this pancake mix. And so we made Legos, and we made fish, and we made a dog, and we made all this stuff. And we had as much fun cooking as we did eating.
Right.
And we got to do a lot of the same, like, okay, this is spatula technique, and this is hot, this is not, wait, now it's time. Like a lot of the timing and feel that you have to develop to be any good in the kitchen is something that we got to do. But it was also artistic and creative and just a good time. So there's really a bunch of breakfast foods. I mean, mixing up waffles and then just making waffles, it's really easy. And then you can let them go crazy on what they're going to put on it and be all creative with, well, I'm going to put peanut butter on here so that then I could stick chocolate chips in there, and then I'm going to put some whipped cream on top and get all crazy with it. But they also get some of the practical application of, like, we were playing with something else and it burnt because we weren't
Right.
paying attention. We need to set a timer so that doesn't happen again,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So
it's good stuff. It's one of those things. Be patient. Be patient. That's a big one. If they do it wrong, it's going to happen. They're going to make messes, but that's kind of the fun of it. So I love cooking with my kids. Alan, can we talk about the magic steak machine? Because I have to know what this is. So, because Drew's mentioned it a few times, and I need to understand.
The magic steak machine is a sous vide cooker.
Of course it is. I knew it.
The Innova sous vide cooker, and I am a big fan of it. I am a little bit disappointed in myself for being cheap and not getting the Wi-Fi connected version. So, the sous vide method has been around for a while, but it's really difficult to control the water temperature and there's several different things that go into it. That this little stick that goes into the water circulates the water, keeps it at a consistent temperature, and then is connected to an app on your phone that has the recipe, and the recipe knows how hot the water needs to be and for how long you need to leave your steak or pork chops or whatever you're cooking inside of the water, and it just tells you on the phone, which is great. But the Bluetooth just does not stay connected if you leave the kitchen area. And part of this is the convenience factor, right? I want to be able to spend a little bit of time prepping it, putting my, salt and pepper, any herbs or anything like that I want to include in it, put it all in a nice vacuum seal bag, vacuum seal it, and then just drop it in and walk away for an hour. Right? That's great. That's convenient. But if I have to stay in the kitchen or leave my phone in the kitchen and then keep coming back to it to check on it, that doesn't really jive with it. So spend the extra couple bucks, get the Wi-Fi connected version so you don't get kicked off all the time.
So there's a channel. I'm gonna promote these guys because I'm in the market for a sous vide, and all my friends have sous vide. It's like it's the cool thing to do these days.
Yeah.
But my friend just did a brisket in it, and he said it came out fantastic. They have all these goals of the other pieces of meat that they're gonna buy and they're gonna make and tri-tip and this and that. And I'm like, I want to play too. I want to be a scientist. So there's actually a site on YouTube. You can look it up. It's Chef Steps, one word, CHEFSTEPS, and they sous vide everything. Mm-hmm. Everything. And it's some of the stuff they do is absolutely amazing. They do mocha pot videos. They do just some amazing things with food, and I highly recommend it to people, especially if you're getting into sous vide. There's a lot to do, and there's a lot more than just like take a piece of meat, put it in, bring it out, and go ta-da. Like there's ways to make it better, how to finish it, how to brine it, all this stuff. And I highly suggest this website. And now I'm gonna get a sous vide because Alan has one. So.
I'm a big fan of it. It makes steaks, and I think that a lot of restaurants, a lot of steakhouses do the same method where you get the steak to a certain temperature through slowly bringing it up to that temperature while it's immersed in a vacuum seal bag with some type of flavoring, and then you char it, and then you add that char to the outside. So I'll use a cast iron skillet, get it smoking hot. Throw some butter in there so it gets nice and buttery and nice and almost burnt, really, and just put a nice little bark on the outside of it. And so, you get 20-30 seconds of searing it on the outside at the very end, and it is very, very good steak.
Now I'm hungry. Thank you.
I am not. In fact, I almost took a nap instead of doing this podcast because I was very, very well fed on some pork ribeye chops.
Yes, please. Yes.
So perfectly.
And Amazon has them on sale like every other week.
They do. I mean, it is just have the magic Amazon delivery person deliver you a magic steak machine and a vacuum seal. It really, really does help. So get one of those and you're good to go.
So you do strongly recommend vacuum sealer, not just trying to pull the air out of a Ziploc bag.
Yeah, you can pull the air out of a Ziploc bag. So I mean, as long as we're throwing around cooking tips with a Ziploc bag method, you let the water do the work. So as you drop a Ziploc bag into the water, you zip all but the last half inch or so, and then you leave that last half inch up and drop it all into the water. The water is going to put pressure on the bag, press the air out until you get to that last little bit, zip it up before it gets before any of the water gets in, and it's going to be airtight, right? Depending on the integrity of the bag, obviously, but it's going to be airtight, and then you can just leave that in there. The vacuum sealer is going to cost a little bit more up front, but it absolutely keeps them sealed. The other nice thing is that you can go to Costco and get a family pack of steaks and portion them all out and vacuum seal them beforehand. They're going to last a lot longer vacuum sealed than if you just put them in a Ziploc bag or something. Freeze them, and then you can put them in. I think it's time and a half is what that equation is for going straight from frozen to sous vide. But yeah, you can go straight from freezer to sous vide and make it that way. Awesome. So yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. Spend a little bit of time food prepping, get some of the stuff ready, and it's not just meat. I mean, they have recipes. I'm sure that Corey, I'm definitely have to check out Chef Steps. But I've seen cheesecake, I've seen scrambled eggs, I've seen all different types of food and desserts and everything that you can make in this thing. So if you can figure out a way, like an entire meal, just like throw it all in there. Oh, it's been 20 minutes, pull out this. Oh, it's been an hour, pull out this. So it can be a lot of fun.
I love tech and kitchens. I do. I really, really do. So, well, let's move on. I think Drew actually had something. Since we're in the kitchen, we're discussing food. You know what goes well with food?
Tasty beverages.
A tasty beverage. A tasty beverage. And what? Oh, we didn't even talk about what we're drinking, by the way.
Well, I was drinking the New England IPA the New England Pale Ale from Weathered Souls Brewing Company. It's very tasty, very hazy, and very much gone right now.
Nice.
Corey, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking my awesome pub beer.
Pub beer.
It's by 10 Barrel Brewing out of Oregon. Solid beer. It's a solid beer. It tastes like a pub beer. Dumped it into a glass. It was all fancy. I was like, hey, that's good stuff. I picked it up at like 7-Eleven for like $2.99. I was like, all right, let's try it. So it's good stuff. And Drew,
an ESB or a Boddington, like
cream ale, it's a lager. It's a lager. It's a clean lager. And oh man, I wish I could have showed you guys when I poured it. The head was just gloriously white. Just so, you know how you get a gas station beer and you pour it and you go, this is totally a gas station beer. Nobody really wants this, but when you're in a clutch.
Corey.
I had a situation and I needed a gas station.
I used to live around the corner from the world's greatest gas station, and they had the best beer selection I've ever seen in a gas station. They had a better beer selection than many of the HEBs here in town.
I had one when I lived in Houston. It was around the corner. It was a Shell station. I just walk in there and just be like, I would ask the guy, I'd be like, anything new in? And he's like, as a matter of fact, it's over. I'm like, yes, I want all of it. Woohoo! Ha! So now I go to gas stations and I'm just full of disappointment. So I saw this and I was like, I've never tried this before, so I'll try it. And I was pleasantly surprised. If you enjoy lagers, clean, crisp, glorious, just clean white head, definitely want to check it out. Now, Mr. Fancy Drew over there with his awesome
some whiskey, Drew.
Some little whiskey. What's going on, man? What you drinking?
Got this Glencairn glass right here, and it's got a little bit of Elijah Craig small batch in it. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Any other whiskeys that you've tried recently that you'd like to talk about?
Just maybe.
Just off chance that you have.
So Saturday, it was a long weekend. I don't know what you guys did with your long weekend. We actually were up visiting family and spent the first half of the day in Pertinalis State Park, which is a quality place just east of Johnson City. Johnson City is up 281 just north of Blanco. Well, after lunch, after splashing around in the water for a while, the kiddos and the ladies went on a different adventure. And the guys decided to go down to Blanco because I made a discovery recently. There's a little situation going on in Blanco, Texas. There are 3 distilleries in Blanco, Texas on 281. And then there's another distillery if you're feeling like a little bit of a trip in Hay, which is just west of Johnson City. We did not get to go there. Garrison Brothers apparently does some very good work. I have not had any of their whiskey. But we did go to Andalusia, to Ben Milam, and then to Real Ale, which also does distilling. So they all three have kind of a different approach. Andalusia is really, really nice, kind of a Scotch-focused single malt approach to whiskey. They have what they call the White Pearl, which is just straight off the still, which if you're going to make money distilling, you have to find a way to sell something that's not old, because it takes a long time to get whiskey to the right age. So they sell the White Pearl. They've been doing their thing as a brand for I think 3 or 4 years, but they've got a tasting room that's only been open for 1 year. So they've got two different offerings that are aged. One is a peat smoked Scotch style single malt, which is really, really nice. The other is more of a Texas take on the same idea, and they use oak and mesquite to smoke their malt for that particular single malt. That's really not my style. I don't usually like mesquite smoked things that aren't meat. I love meat smoked with mesquite, but I don't really like drinking mesquite smoke.
Yeah, that flavor can be overwhelming sometimes and ruin a very good drink.
And they did a really good job being subtle with both the peat and with the wood smokes. Both of their aged whiskeys were really good, some of the best that we had that day. And I definitely recommend going and checking them out. They had a few taps. They had some cocktails that they made. The pearl that they make, the white whiskey right off the still, they make a margarita with it that I did not try because I wanted to sample everything neat and make a decision that way. But if I went back and I was forced to have the White Pearl, I would be happy with a White Pearl margarita. It really kind of has a slightly smoky character to it, but it's more of like a Blanco tequila or something along those lines, with more of a corn component, because it's from kind of a bourbon background, or one of their single malts too would probably be a valid end in that White Pearl, but would make a really nice margarita, I would imagine. So after we went there, we went to Ben Milam, and they are really more of an American distillery. So they're not focused on the Scottish single malt styles. They're focused on bourbon and rye. Both were solid. The rye was better in my opinion, but they're in the process of getting their production up. So they have bought a bunch of whiskey off of another distiller that they are aging themselves in Blanco while they build stock in their own whiskey that they're distilling. So it'll probably be a couple of years before they're selling stuff that they have distilled, because again, it's a hard business to get into if you don't have something to sell. And so they decided to go the blending and aging route. So I got to talk to one of the distillers there. And it sounds like a really interesting process. They go to some of the big distillers and tell them, this is the mash bill we're planning on having. This is the grain profiles and the flavor profiles we're looking for. And they can basically go through a catalog of a big macro distillers whole process and decide which ones they want to buy, and then they can go and finish them however they want, if that's on new American oak or used rum barrels or whatever the case may be.
Interesting.
So yeah, kind of a cool gig to go through someone else's entire catalog and say that one.
Right. Thanks for doing all the hard work. I'm going to just finish this off. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Well, it's all hard work, right? If you want a good product, you can't slacken any point in the process.
Right.
So they're having someone else do part of the heavy lifting, and they're going to do the rest of it. And if anybody screws it up, it's not going to be good. The problem is they've put their label on it, so they're going to get the blame. So they want to buy product that hasn't been messed up yet and then continue to treat it well. But they also want to get to a point where they're doing the whole thing end to end, so they have full control, which really, if you're going to put your name on something, I think that's probably the end goal, is to have your fingers on every dial they can be on. I mean, that's not how everybody does it, but that's how, if I were going about it, I would do it. But
Ranger
anyhow,
Creek locally has had some success with that. With they wanted to get into the distilling business, and so but they needed something to keep them afloat during that time. So they made some beers, and they let their whiskey sit, which is what you do with whiskey.
Yeah. So this is that's a great example of something similar to what Real Ale is doing. So these are all, for being such a small space with such a small town, to have 3 different distilleries is pretty impressive. And then to have 3 different distilleries that have 3 very different backstories is even more impressive. It seems like the more likely outcome would be like one family wanted to get into distilling and everybody hated each other by the end of the week. And so they all started their own, but that doesn't seem like what happened here. So Real Ale has been brewing beer for a long time.
21 years?
20 something years. Yeah. And doing a great job of it. And recently started selling their distilled spirits. So they have a gin that they've been making for a while, and they've got a whiskey that they've been selling for a little bit less time than that gin. I never had a chance to try either one. I haven't even seen them really on the shelves. So I was really curious because I've been such a fan of their beers for so long. So we went into their tasting room and they had all the beers. So we ended up with those. And by the way, it is Oktoberfest season, and that makes me happy.
So Fredericksburg, which is right there on 290, like Oktoberfest, there's a couple breweries down there as well. And I mean, all the wine country up in the hill country. So I plan on going. You know what we need? You know what we need? SA Tech Dad's field trip. Field trip. Field trip. Field trip.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. So let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll just take a day off. We'll all take the day off, and we'll just go up. It's not even that far of a drive, and it's really not. It's less than 2 hours.
I tell you what, because we're probably not going to podcast again for 6 months to 5 years. Let's go ahead and give our annual recommendation for the Fredericksburg Oktoberfest, which is a fantastic, real quick trip for anybody in San Antonio to head up there. It should be happening in just at the end of the month here, and just a couple more weeks. So always a fun time. I love taking the kids up there. We've gone up there 2 or 3 years now, and they absolutely love it. There's fun stuff to do for kids. There's always fun stuff to do for grown-ups, especially if you are having a tasty beverage, and plenty of fun stuff to do. So take the kids up there, head up there by yourself if you don't have kids, and just enjoy some local and national and international delicious Oktoberfest beers.
It's October 6th, 7th, and 8th for those that are curious. So
there you go.
Now you know. Now you're in the know, so you have no excuse not to go.
And if it's too far, you can just do the Alamo Brewing Company Oktoberfest, which I went to last year. It was lovely.
And you're a big fan of Beethoven's?
Beethoven's Beer Garden. They do a pretty legit German take on Oktoberfest, but it's also ridiculously crowded.
Of course.
It's worth putting up with, but it's not worth putting up with very often. So we go every few years.
I think I'm going to make it up this year. I'm looking forward to going up to the Fredericksburg one and doing the Oktoberfest up there and giving it a shot. Take the kids, go do all the things, see the Lederhosen. Cheers.
Wear the Lederhosen.
Wear the Lederhosen. I mean, when in Rome, I guess when in Germany.
Go on.
Or when you're in Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
Do as the Fredericksburgans.
Maybe.
I guess that's what that is, right? So
absolutely. Cool. Well, I don't know. I think that's about it for our list of topics. Anything that you guys want to plug before we go?
I do a couple things. I do some internet things. I actually do another podcast with my friend Brian at Quiglin on the Twitters. We do a podcast called A Starting Point. So you guys can catch me on Twitter at A Starting Point. We record weekly where we discuss all things video games, geeky conventions, just anything and everything. We touch on everything if we can, but mainly a lot of focus on video games. We just went through an entire month of just huge guests coming on between Frida Wolf. We just recently had Jeff Kanata on. We got just lots of really cool people coming on and giving their take on the other side of the business. And there's a lot of work there. It's just cool to see what these guys do and then bring it to your console and or PC. So again, check us out at A Starting Point. I also do Friday nights at 9 p.m. Central. I play a little thing called Overwine. If you can check us out on Twitter at Overwine Gaming. My friend Stuart Banky, who he actually is Wine on the Dime. He has a YouTube show where he does ratings of wine under $15 and strange, cool gadgets and weird things. He does some. He does
ridiculously well.
He does
ridiculously.
It's hot. It's really entertaining. He's just a really funny, good guy. But both him and I both enjoy wine, cheap and or otherwise. But we also enjoy a little game you may have heard of called Overwatch. So we decided to collaborate, and on Friday nights we sit down and we live stream on Twitch and on YouTube. You can check me out at twitch.tv/Mythic Griffin, and you can catch him on YouTube at Wine on the Dime. And we basically, for about an hour, 2 hours, we play Overwatch, we drink and rate wine, and we coach Alan on how to play Junkrat. So it's actually a lot of fun. Check us out again, 9 p.m. Central on Fridays on Twitch and or YouTube. And that's what I do.
It's fun even if you don't know how to play.
It really is.
Stuart might be the least pretentious wine guy I know.
I love Stuart. I love his reviews. I love it.
He has so far to go. Like, he absorbs the pretension of so many other wine people that are
There's
out
a
there.
lot to go around.
He's the balance.
We love Stuart. We love Stuart, and he's great playing video games with. He's highly entertaining. So, yeah. Alan, Drew, what are you guys up to these days?
I have one request to make of the audience that we have. I have a lot of family in the Houston and surrounding areas. They have plenty of food and water. What they need is help with rebuilding and building supplies and skills and time and sweat equity. So if you have a chance, go lend a hand. Go lend a hand in Refugio or Rockport or some of those other places that got destroyed by wind. Go lend a hand in the Houston area where they got destroyed by water. Save the water and the food that you were going to give to Houston for however Irma just decimates Florida. They're going to need a bunch of that stuff, and we've been stocking up.
And there's another one brewing up in the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I think that's going to be right after that. So, I think the food and those provisions are pretty well in hand for Houston, but man, rebuilding is going to be rough. So if you've got some time that you can give, or some building supplies or something more along those lines, that's really what they need now. And that food and water, etc., really is going to come in handy for the next round of people decimated by another hurricane. So keep that in mind as you're giving. Find the most local thing you can find that fits the thing you want. If you're into saving pets, give to the Humane Society. If you're into saving children, find a shelter to give to, or a group that's doing foster care for kids who are displaced. There's so much need. Find some place you can help out. A lot of people are going to really need it who don't need it yet, and there's a lot of people who didn't need it very long ago that really need your help now. So there's that.
And just to kind of follow on with what Drew just said there, the blood bank always needs blood, and never more so than right after an emergency. So get out there, donate some blood, and donate it often, not just in times of emergency, but get it out there and donate. Yep. As far as things for me to plug, I'll echo Corey's comments on Overwine gaming. It's super fun, even if you're not a big time gamer. Also, I do some improv around town at Comedy Sports and Bear Stage. So I've got a San Antonio Showcase show coming up this Saturday at 8 p.m. at Bear Stage. And then do a couple of shows a week or a couple of shows a month on at Comedy Sports. So head out, support your local theater. Always a fun time.
And Alan's a really funny guy, so go see him be funny. That's really what this comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm funny looking all the time. Sometimes I say things that are funny too. So come out and check that out and have fun. Support your local theater. So, all right. On that note, I guess we'll go ahead and sign off, and we'll see everybody again in
Soon
2024 for the next Eclipse.
Eclipse. We'll be there.
Bye, everybody.